Good morning. It is Sunday morning, and I am going to have a chat with my best buddy. And I call her my soul sister. She is my heart, and we are going to be talking together. I just gotta figure out how to get. Here we go. Yes. Just, I'm good. And how are you? And let me know where in the world you are. Hey, babe.
Hey,
Yay, we did it!
I
First joint
know.
live together.
This is awesome.
I know. So how are you doing this morning?
A little bit of craziness here and there, but I am good. Your hair looks absolutely gorgeous, friend.
Thank you. I just rinsed the dye off of it like 20 minutes ago.
Oh, I love it. I love it. No, things,
Mm,
things are good this morning. It turned out to be a really sunny, beautiful day here, so the day is going to hold lots of exciting things.
gonna get out in the garden.
Totally, yes. I'm still a bit sore from yesterday, and that's what we're going to do today. So, yeah. What about
Awesome.
you?
I'm good. Allie is a health and well, why don't you tell us what you are, what kind of coach you are?
So I am a health and wellness coach. And what I do is I help members plan and develop habits surrounding activity, sleep, mindset, and food to help them achieve their goals, their wellness, and their weight loss goals.
Right, because you're with Weight Watchers
Yes, I
and
am.
part of your journey or like what we've been talking because we're both coaches is that how weight loss isn't actually just about weight loss.
It's actually very, very stunning at how, sorry, I'm going to adjust my camera here, at how how things have changed, and B, how when we enter into something where we want to get better, we want to make changes, it generally has a singular idea behind it of saying, I want to come in and I want to lose weight. And then all of a sudden you discover that there's so many more components, and that weight gain or weight loss tends to be a byproduct or a symptom. And so there's so much bigger of a picture as to what goes into that, because that number on the scale is so inconsistent and doesn't always reflect our hard work. And so relying solely on that number, I think has been like the biggest epiphany is that the mindset is everything, and it leaks into all these other things. And having all the different pillars, so sleep, activity, food, and mindset are kind of all the pillars, and if you rely solely on one thing, you are going to be sadly disappointed. um
Right, in balance. And like Joe M. Quality Incorporated had a point there, which I totally agree. Wellness sounds way better than weight loss, which is the conversation that we were having like with each other all weekend.
yeah, weight loss is a byproduct of a well lifestyle, is a byproduct of wellness. And so we don't control that number. What we can control is our mindset, and our habits that we develop.
Yeah, it's the outer is a reflection of the inner life, which we
Yeah.
find that in every aspect of wellness. Like, how messy is your room right now? How cluttered is your mind? How cluttered is your heart? And I know that hits all of us, especially when we're living in our own offices now. But yeah, it's good to see so many people hopping on here. Yeah, so we were talking. Allie and I went for a hike the other day. Whoops. Allie and I went for a hike the other day, and we were talking about just coming to peace and loving the person who started this journey in the first place. Because so often we look back and we kind of shit on ourselves, like, oh, look at how fat I was there, or look at what a mess I was there.
Yeah.
But that was the human that started this journey in the first place. That moment where we have, oh, I got to get my stuff together, is one of the biggest gifts we
It
can give
takes
ourselves.
such bravery, and I think that and really surrounding yourself with that mind piece, which it's funny, because we have a saying that the heaviest weight that you carry is in between your ears. And so, it's that's the trickiest part, right? Is that because there's so much shame involved in, oh, look how far I got, look how I let myself go, to a certain point. How did I get here? I wish I had started this sooner. And you had to be in the right place, the right time. And that person who showed up and said, you know what, I need to make a change for me. And it's for me, whatever your reason coming into it. Like that person, we need to look back at that person and thank them and love them. And the person that you started out doing this was the brave person that walked in the first place.
Yeah, and I totally want to jump off that because so often we have this voice in our head that is like, if I just yell at myself loud enough, I'm going to accomplish whatever I want. So then we're like, I should have done this, or I'm such an asshole for not doing that. And it's actually misaligned self love. But when we start to have that forgiveness piece, that compassion piece, like I did what I could to survive, or I did
Yeah.
the best that I had with the tools that I had at the time. And actually, the super cool thing is it helps us go further faster than we thought possible.
Totally, totally. And and the thing is that, and we were also talking about that thing where there is no magic number, there is no magic moment, where we're fixed, right? That when we look at this as we are seeking out health and wellness, and seeking out bettering ourselves as a continuous process, I think that there is joy in that, and that it's not about suffering, right? This is about improving, and we get stronger and we get better and we have more habits and skills that we develop. And it's just so cool to see as a coach, to see how far people go, and then we're in it ourselves, right? Is that the whole reason that we got into this was because we were seeking out something in the first place ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's also hygiene and maintenance, right? Like you can get that ideal number or you can get that ideal job or finally have that relationship, but it's maintenance. You have to maintain it. And we have to think of our mental health, our emotional health, our physical health like that rather than one and done. Because if I just like brushed my teeth on Friday and wanted to like kiss my husband on Sunday, he'd be like, no, thanks. Right? But we were like, this is just one and done. I don't have to do it. But it's maintenance. It's maintenance. It's maintenance hygiene. We had somebody want to join us. Sue 193. Is that something you actually want, or did you accidentally press the button? Because if you want to join us and hop on and ask us questions, we are here for you. But I have accidentally pressed that button too. So I just want to have some clarification. And then Frazen Coaching and Grief. He's a great grief coach. And if you need help, please hit him up. He says, I try to tell myself that I want to change rather than something I should. Yes. You know what? I had the dumbest example of this, but it kind of, sometimes the simple things clarify the big things. I have fish. Like I have this fish tank and I totally, totally love it. And I was dreading cleaning it. And then I had this moment where I was like, oh no, I need to stop thinking about the act of cleaning it and think about how good it will be to have it clean. It's a little bit of a mind shift, but it gives your motivation a little bit better. So when we think about eating healthier, like not about like, oh, I am so like dreading Monday morning where I know I'm going to be serious on this diet again, thinking about, well, what are the outcomes of it? Because
Yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
focus. It's the focus.
Yeah, we focus a lot of how is this going to make me feel, and we do. We think that, and that's why the diet culture is it doesn't work, right? Because you're looking for a band-aid solution, and when we continue through it and we develop these skills and we realize that this is joy, and Sue is saying joy starts within us and we cannot allow anyone to steal it. AJ, you and I were talking about that this weekend on our hike about people not stealing your joy. And I think finding joy within wellness, because like you're not bettering yourself as a punishment. like you're bettering yourself as a gift. And I think that sometimes it is hard, right? It's a struggle. It feels hard when we restart something, when we kind of back up from where we've been before. And this is why it's a continuous journey.
Yeah, no setbacks, only windows where more either tactics, healing, or love needs to go. Joe M. Quality Incorporated said, how do you reduce your love for sweets? That's my biggest desire. I'm going to let Ali answer first as like the weight loss coach, and I'm going to answer second as like a spiritual mental coach.
So, in terms of sweets, I can totally relate because sugar is my Achilles heel, and I think that doing things really small, start out small. If you find that you're having a lot of sweets, give yourself permission to have some, and you can reduce that, increase your fruit intake, and it's basically a slow process where we don't want to be jumping the Grand Canyon, right? We don't want to make it hard so that, all of a sudden you're gonna go, I'm giving up sugar. That's it. I'm done. That AJ was saying that Monday morning and you're like, oh, I'm gonna have to do this and I'm gonna have to go through a sugar detox. Just go slowly. And I think that being kind to yourself and giving yourself permission, but having a plan. I think having a plan behind it, and write it down, bag it out, and make sure that you have what you are allowed to have, and that's your decision, right? That you are in the driver's seat for that.
Yeah, and sugar is an interesting one. Just as like a spiritual and emotional coach, anytime that we feel we want to binge on anything, it's a signpost. And that's all it is. It's telling you information. So your sugar may be like, I need comfort right now, or I need more stimulation, or I'm overstimulated, or you're trying to ground yourself because you're feeling the intensity of what's going on. So when we get to the root reason behind, it loses its power. And then you have all that support of the practical things like, planning your food out and knowing that you have decided this and seeing the outcome rather than just the process. Yeah, yeah. Okay, good. I'm glad that was helpful to you. And then Sue says frozen fruit is a great way to help with sweet. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And those are like the bridges to get us there. So we want to know the root cause, like why did we get here in the first place?
Yeah.
And then we also want the practical steps to be like, okay, well, I need to know exactly what to do today to make my journey start even.
I think planning is key, and knowing what's coming. If we think about kids, right, there's expectation, right? And when we tell them what the expectation is, and when you know what the expectation is, and whether you accomplish it, or you don't quite get there, that's okay. And it's all about small adjustments that we adjust as we go, because this life is not an all or nothing. Right? It's not black or white. We live in the gray. And I think that, and if we don't think of what we are doing in terms of succeeding or failing, and that we're just on a journey, right? And sometimes we go sideways, and sometimes we're moving forward, and sometimes we're going back. But that it's just a journey that we're on, and you need to have a lot of self-care and love and kindness for yourself.
Yeah, because we don't expect our children to get it right away. No one sits down with multiplication is like, yeah, well, maybe some of us do, but most of us don't. It's a journey, and we allow children to make that journey, but we just expect ourselves to get it right away. But it's actually about growth, and that's like, growing, developing, and evolving. So make little baggies and portion them out like sola finis. And I'm sorry if I
That's
totally
Sophia. Hi, Sophia.
Hi, Sophia. It's a pleasure to meet you. But yeah, so when things aren't going wrong, it's not a failure and it's not a setback. It's just information. It's like that methodology or that methodology did not work for you.
Yeah.
So try something different. It's okay. It's okay. Because what works for Allie might not work for me. And we have different bodies and different approaches, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, even when we're hiking, like Allie's like 5'8" and I'm like barely 5'3", so I'm doing 2 steps for
You
every
get,
one.
you get way more steps. You get way more steps in than me. Hi, Sophia. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, for those of you, some of you are on that know me, and some, AJ. So we have quite the history, you and I.
We do. I call you my sister because have journeyed this life together. We met 20 years ago. I had just finished my Bachelor of Arts in Theology, studying how art affects how we think and feel and how like our movies and TV and books are like a dreamscape of our culture. So naturally I started working at Starbucks after that because that's the kind of job you get after that kind of degree. And this is where I met Allie,
Yeah.
who was she's an amazing musician. And if you ever have the opportunity to hear her sing, it is very soul uplifting.
It's
Trust me
funny.
on
It's
that.
funny that we both came from very artistic backgrounds. Musicals. I did musicals and music, and yeah, you were an actor for such a long time. And it was just kind of. I just remember the first time that I met you, and it was pretty much you introduced yourself, and I went, "I'm going to call you AJ," and I just basically like, "We're going to be friends," and you were like, "Okay, all right, we're going to be friends."
Yeah.
And just throughout all of this, it's so funny because uh our daughters are best friends as well. And throughout just kind of our journey throughout career and what do we do with the job and what fills our heart. And it's so interesting that throughout all of this, that you and I both came to kind of the same thing that we want to help people and into coaching.
Mm. Yeah. And this is the thing, like if any of you are spiritual entrepreneurs out there, know that you don't have to have all the answers right now. You just need to be like a few steps ahead, right? And that's really where this comes from. It's like if I can do it, you can too.
Yep,
if I
absolutely.
if I got this far, you absolutely can too.
And I think the whole idea surrounding for me was just community, right? Is having that support, because we are not used to asking for help. And I think that asking for help really is something that we need to get better at. We need to encourage our children to do that as well, because we are so much stronger when we're together.
Yeah, and nothing has been made more clearer during this pandemic that we're a tribal people.
Yeah,
That's our history. We're pack animals. We need each other. And well, depending on where you are, here in Canada, where Ali and I are in BC, the restrictions are still quite harsh. So we have to be extremely intentional to go out and seek out that community, to seek
yeah,
out that relationship, to show up and join our online events and our Zoom events because we need connection. You cannot and you are not expected to ever do this alone. And that is the biggest lie of anxiety is that, you're on your own and you don't know what you're doing. Well, none of us know what we're doing, but none of us are alone. Not
yeah.
now, not ever.
Absolutely. And all we can do is share the tools, and again, what you were saying too is that what works for me might not work for you the same way, but I think when we dial it back to habits and leaning into what is working for you, but I mean, and also not looking at other people, right? That white picket fence. When we look at other people and go, I wish I had that life, and I wish I was that person, because that person's life must be perfect. And it's such an illusion that doesn't actually really exist. And I think that grounding ourselves with what is real and what is fact, and sometimes what we have been told our whole lives, growing up, and because our parents have told that or adults have told us this, we hold on to it and we take that as fact. And I think that you and I specifically have really learned like that. It blew wide open that, for me especially, was that, what I thought was true was something that I got to decide. And it was such a weird moment, to be able to have that kind of clarity. And it was scary. It was super scary. Anytime where you kind of blow the walls wide open, you kind of freeze and be like, now what? Right? And I think this is where having coaches and having a community, is really just about being given the tools so that we can redirect the way that we want to. And then it just builds us into, and it leaks into all different parts of our life. Like whether you show up wanting to lose weight, you end up through the process developing all these other skills, and then it doesn't become about weight or number anymore, and that you're chasing down what makes you feel good.
Oh my gosh, there's so much. Okay, so when I turned 40, my husband and I turned 40 at the same year. Ryan looks at me and he goes, "Should we do a marathon? We should do a marathon." And I was like, um, okay, little girls with big boobs aren't supposed to be able to run like that, so I don't know what."
See? Oh,
But I did it. And
right?
so much of my life lessons I learned from showing up for myself, for showing up for myself when it was hard, for showing up for myself when it was raining, for showing up for myself. And near the end of my training, I was telling Allie on our hike, I would drop our daughter off at school and run the entire day.
I can't believe
and
that.
then go pick her up afterwards. And it was just, I needed to know, not just think, but know that I could do hard things. And when I knew that I could do a hard thing, I became unstoppable. I was like, okay, maybe I can be a 40-something Instagrammer influencer. And here we are, like a year later in the pandemic, and this is what's happening now. So my hero a year ago was me today.
I love that. I love that. And it's just, I think the minute that we realize that we can accomplish something we didn't think we could, because we get that it's never going to happen. I can't do this. A lot of time it's like, I will never be able to. It's the lack of faith in ourselves. And I think that it's just that we haven't been given the opportunity to really actually do these. And sometimes it's life gets in the way, right? And we put everyone else first. And even throughout my own journey, you know, and I was complaining to you about, you know, like I just stopped running and I loved it, and I've gotten back into it this week, and I'm so sore. I'm cursing up and down as I'm and it's funny at how easily we slip back into the back seat. And we don't always keep pushing ourselves to the front.
Right. And not to be so hard on ourselves for those fear stories, because all those fear stories are, all that lack is, like, nobody wakes up in the morning and is like, I'm going to live in my limited beliefs today. It's going to be good. No, that's bullshit. But what those are, all that a limiting belief is, it's your hurt self trying to keep you safe.
Yeah. Right.
It's just you trying to keep you safe. You're trying to shoot down that idea before you go for it because it feels so scary and dangerous. You're just trying to be safe. But you are safe.
And you don't know, and that's the thing about trying things. I think that people are so afraid to fail, but I think failing is where the learning takes place, right? If you want to call it failing, because it just has such a negative connotation attached to it, is that I think that there is learning in failing. I think that because if you try so many different things, right, you're going to find that one thing. And if you were too afraid and said, you know, we're going to be protected and stay in our house, and I'm not going to try anything because it's too scary and I can't do it. You don't know what your limitations are until you start breaking that ceiling, breaking through, and not being afraid to fail, and do something and be like, you know what, not for me, next, and move on.
You know, in the failing aspect, I actually talk about our two girls, Emily and Sadie, because they both started walking at completely different age groups. Like, Sadie waited till she was 15 months old, and she was like scared of falling and scared of hurting herself. But Emily started walking at 9 months.
Yeah.
And neither was right, neither was wrong. They're just babies growing and developing at their own pace, but both have different challenges. So with Emily learning how to walk so young, we had to be like, okay, what do we need to get off the floor? How can we make her safe? And then being there for her when she would fall or hit her head on something. And with Sadie, it was opposite. We would be like, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. So it's like, whether you're afraid to try or you're trying and failing, neither is right or wrong. It's just part of your journey. It's part of how you grow. And we don't get mad at our children of like, you know, like you should, and that's not going to help them develop and grow. And it won't
Yeah.
help us develop and grow too when we get so mad at our own mistakes.
Totally. And the thing is, if you don't have a skill that you have, like, because you've just never developed it, going back to looking at the way that we deal with children and we are patient and we don't give them more than they can handle at the time, I think that we have such a great expectations of ourselves, and that's where it becomes too scary to leap off of saying, well, I can't do this. Well, it's because you need to practice.
Yeah.
You need to whatever, like, research, find someone else that does this, get a teacher, but to not be afraid to do things. And just because that you I was talking to my daughter about this, and she was talking about her jobs that she wanted to do, and I just kind of said, well, we were talking about school, and I said, well, you can go to school for anything you want. You don't have to go to school for something you're going to have a job at. You go, like, and I think that we're so limited and focused on, what's going to make us money, and that we also have to look at what's going to bring us joy, right? There's got
Yeah.
to be that balance of do things. Sometimes you need to do things not because XYZ going to bring you blah blah blah, that it's simply for you. It's just
Yeah.
for you. And we don't always have that mindset, right, of going and taking a class because it's something you love, and go and be light seekers and go seek out joy, and find those things that are going to fill your cup.
Yeah, and those are they help us go further and faster. Your joy is your strength. I'm just going to go back into the messaging on here. Sue says we are as strong as the weakest person we are supporting, which is like, yeah, our tribe helps us sharpen, helps us expand, helps us grow. Because every time you feel like you're retreating in on yourself, it's kind of a death. And every time you feel you're expanding and growing yourself, you are. And Sophie, your friend Sophie, said, I had a moment at the gym this week where I did something I thought I couldn't do, and I started my journey, or she couldn't do it when she started her journey. And she was so proud of herself for doing it and seeing how strong you are. Yes, good for you, my friend. And learning is the best result when you fail. Absolutely. One of my mantras is mistakes make me stronger. Mistakes are important and good because they help me learn.
Yes, there's growth in and what, like, otherwise you stay hidden in a closet, right? We want to be out in the sunshine and growing constantly. And the one thing that we can rely on, especially knowing with what's gone on, everything's going to change. Right? This last year has been the huge indicator that, you never know what's going to be coming down the pipeline, and that everything can change, and just go with the flow, right? Is that, don't get stuck in the cement where you think, I cannot do this. And yes, you can. You can do so much more. We are capable of so much more than we think we can.
You don't want to restrict your own blessings as they come. And when we are so narrow focused on like, this is the only way that I can be successful, you're
Yes.
cutting yourself off from other opportunities. And sometimes like the road is never straight. It's always got these lovely little curves, and there's so much beauty to be seen in the detour. And the lovely thing, like the difference between like living in that anxious state is, driving the car and you're imagining 2 blocks ahead. That's dangerous. Or driving the
Yeah.
car and looking at the road underneath your wheels. Well, that's dangerous. You want to be looking just a little bit ahead, so you can guide that wheel and take the curve as it comes.
Yeah. Take what's in front of you. And I think that worry, worry and anxiety, in terms of where we're going, how we're failing, if we're going to be successful, it hasn't happened yet, right? It's not even real. And those things take up so much brain space that it's almost like we kind of need to declutter that brain so that we can be in the moment. Because when we're constantly looking in other directions, you're missing out on your life, which is happening right now. And I think that being hard on ourselves and feeling bad about where you are currently, for whatever reason, like you got to give yourself a break and just enjoy life, because otherwise, you know, you talk to people who are old, who are at the end of their life, and you ask them, you know, what do you wish that you had done in your life? And a lot of the answer that you're going to hear is, I wish that I had worried less. I wish I had enjoyed my life more, and that I hadn't been so hard on myself.
Yeah. And that takes practice, because there's going to be days where there's going to be moments where you're going to access that. And then you're going to go back into your fear state. And then you're like, oh, wait, I can make a new choice. Okay, so I'm going to go and access that.
Yeah.
And it's like pearls on a string. Like sometimes when you start stringing that pearl necklace, those pearls seem so far apart. Like, okay, well, I had this moment here where I know I totally nailed it, but then I got in my fear story again. And then I got back. And then it's just practice, practice. And you're stringing more pearls along the way. And then it becomes easier. And then it becomes second nature.
Yeah.
But it takes practice to do that.
and,
Anything
and
worthwhile.
continual maintenance, right? Is that just because we've got the hang of something, like running 3 days a week, doesn't mean that a simple change can shift. And we need to really make sure that we are paying attention to the things that we want to maintain. And it isn't, and again, it's not an all or nothing. It's a continuous process. Like, we have to practice these habits and behaviors, and especially with mindset is having that back and forth. And when we have a bad day, of having the bad day, and it's okay to have those feelings. You know, people are so afraid of feelings, and we need to sit inside of them, instead of trying to cover them up or bury them, which is why people end up eating or doing self-destructive things, is because you're trying to push those down rather than acknowledge them and feel them. Because we live in a society where, you know, chin up and dry those tears and don't cry in public. And, you know, as friends, we try to make our friends feel better. And we just need to get better at knowing how to feel our feelings.
Yeah. Yeah, going through them is the shortest way to
And we
healing.
don't inherently know that. And that's why having help from other people is recognizing the feelings and then being able to actually deal with them, rather than diverting them into something else. Um,
Yeah, and then counterbalance,
yeah,
right? Counterbalance. Oh, I know I'm stuck in my fear story. I just need to focus on something better, or I just need to go outside. Sometimes it's just that simple. You need to move your body in a different place than it was before. We have habits of thought like we have habits of body. Are you reading the things?
yeah,
I haven't read them for a while. Wait, I said this morning that I just walk. I just gritted myself. I have to stop that because I know I don't just do anything. No, you don't just do anything. And their walking is amazing. Allie was actually just saying the other day that she gets more points. I'm not quite sure how the weight
yeah.
loss system works.
Yeah, the activity points, with the WW program. It's so funny because, when I go for hikes and I'm just walking, and I will do, like when we did the Deer Lake, I think we did 101 minutes was what good old Fitbit my good old Fitbit counted, and I got 43 fit points for those of you who are on the program. And then I did the crunch the next day, which you know, really, I'm sweating, I'm breathing, I'm I'm just giving her. But you know, there's 22 points, and so sometimes slowing it down and going for a little bit longer, and isn't that the lesson in life? Sometimes just dialing it back, sitting into it, and going a little bit longer. And it doesn't, it's funny because it doesn't seem as strenuous, but you get to do both. Yeah.
Mm. I want to hit on what Daniel said in just a second on the bottom there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I the slow and consistent, that's going to get you way farther than bursts. Because, okay, when I'm training and I'm doing like, I want to get a certain distance or I want to get a certain time, there's the interval training too, where you go fast and slow and fast and slow, which is really good for weight loss. But it's also really good for building strength and endurance. So when you're doing anything like diet or learning a skill, it doesn't really matter as long as you can be consistent, because it's better if you walk for 5 minutes every day than 10 minutes last March on Tuesday and nothing
Yeah.
since then, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And we get that panic, right? Is what we want to avoid is going to extremes in
Yeah.
order to accomplish what we're doing, because that's again, it's a band-aid, right? Is instead of creating a foundation, which is kind of that low and slow and consistency is really the key,
Yeah.
is finding that balance. And I struggle with consistency. I'm so frou-frou and little hippie girl sometimes, where I find consistency for me is a struggle. And however that you need to find that, whether you need to write it down on your calendar, but I know that if I am consistent with something, that is where you see the results, right? And again, that interval, that low and slow, and have like good, the high days, the low days, is such a good practice, because it gives you that rest in between, and that's what creates a foundation. Because your slide back, is we don't end up in on that slippery slope as fast when we've created that kind of a foundation.
And rest with anything, with learning or with bodybuilding, is actually where the muscle is built. So if I go to the gym and I do weights, what's happening is I'm tearing down my muscle. And then as I rest, it builds up stronger and
Yeah.
builds up my metabolism. But the rest is part of the journey. And that's another mantra I have: my rest is productive. So Daniel asks, what advice would you give someone who has been too good at lying to themselves? It's kind of vague, but I would say, what do you want? Connect to your why, because
Yeah.
you can't really lie to yourself for too long. Like there's different aspects of how we lie to ourselves. Like when you go into repressed memories, or when you go into staying in a toxic relationship for too long. Why did I stay here? That's way more nuanced, and you absolutely would need to talk to a coach over a longer period of time. But what is going on there is just your brain trying to keep you safe. So sometimes when we lie to ourselves, we're just trying to keep ourselves safe and live to see the next day. That's like just survival mode. So what we'd want to do is to shift you from survival to thriving mode. And to do that, you have to see, well, what is the lie? And why did I put that lie there in the first place?
Yeah, like what is the point? Like what is the end game? In terms of lying on your food tracker, or things that you're tracking with what we do, um, like it the thing is that, again, you talked about finding your why. Like, why is it that you're doing this in the first place, and what is it that you want to accomplish? And also, like, your intention. What is the intention behind the lie? Like, what is it giving you? And then at the end of the day, if you're lying to yourself, if you're trying to put out a different picture and show up as a different person in the world than you actually are, you're really only hurting yourself. And nobody really cares about that lie, right? Is that we hold on to that, right? That lie of who we are or what we're doing, and really, you're the only person that's holding on to that. And as AJ said, that's digging a bit deeper with a coach, is to really uncovering what is the root cause. What is the root cause of the lie in the first place?
Yeah, and leaving the shame aside, because obviously lying is a coping mechanism for most of us, especially when it comes to lying for ourselves. So
Yeah.
we have like low level coping mechanisms, which would be like, I think I need to eat more ice cream to get over this. And we have high level coping mechanisms, where it's just like, I'm going to spend the entire day meditating and not actually do the thing that I need to do. That would be a more high level coping mechanism. So then we need to counterbalance. Just do the damn thing already.
Yeah. It's funny
And
how
know that you're not
we
going to
avoid it.
die.
Yeah. And I think too, right, is walking right up to it. And AJ, you and I were talking about fear, right? I think that a lot of times that lies stem from fear, the fear of failure, the fear of whatever that it is. And I know for myself, doing kind of a little bit of an experiment over the last couple of years, is walking up to the things that make me afraid. And like I said to AJ, it's not like I'm walking out in the middle of the street to see if what's going to happen with the cars and me. Nothing dangerous, but really walking up to those things that, why am I afraid of this? And the thing that I found most powerful was that I didn't have a reason to be afraid. Like, it was just so funny when you come up to the things that make you scared of the most and you go, wow, this is so not a big deal. And I kind of made it out to be way bigger in my head than it actually is. And a lot of times the things we tell ourselves or the way we have to be or show up in the world is the lies that we tell ourselves comes from all the fear.
And freedom is on the other side.
Yeah.
Because usually when you're feeling that intense emotion, it's because you're going to level up. You're going to level up, right? Like, well, I'm going to hop on a live on a Sunday morning, afternoon, because I'm going to level up and I'm scared as whatever and I want to hide, but I'm going to level up. And the body doesn't lie. The body doesn't lie, which is why, like, when we're carrying around our extra weight, it's trying to tell us something. It's like, no, I'm literally trying to slow you down to look at something here.
Yeah. And I think that again, right, we get focused a lot on numbers, right? That number on the scale and stuff like that. And it's really about feeling ourselves inside our own bodies, right? How do I feel? And I think we don't actually take the time, if you want to take the visual of taking your shoes off and like going and finding a field and actually putting your feet on the ground and grounding yourself to the earth and really, really thinking about how do I feel? Breathe in and out. And this is why like meditations and breath are so important.
Just gonna go there.
How did I know?
How did you? Because you've known me for 20 years.
I know.
When I first started my meditation practice, the very first time I sat down, I was itchy all over. And this is a common thing. Like, I was just like, I can't. Like, I would literally get so itchy. And another buddy of mine, she was studying her yoga coaching and therapy through yoga. And I was like, okay, well, lucky me, I can ask her what the heck is happening? Well, I want to meditate. And what it was my own body trying to tell me something, because the body can't lie. It's always like, your body can't lie to you. So my body was trying to tell me something, that there was something going on underneath the surface, something going on under my skin. And so often, especially when we're busy, especially when we have pain stories, we don't want to stop and listen because we are not afraid we can handle the information that we'll receive.
Yeah. It's and the thing is that, and we are, and that's where overcoming that fear, walking up to it and doing it anyway. And see what happens, because again, you talk about leveling up, and that's where like, you just don't know what you're capable of. And just that moment, you realize that you are capable, it opens the door to so many other things. So many other things in life.
I woke up this morning to the most amazing message in my inbox. And so I'm a coach, but I'm also always in coaching, right? Because I want to have that accountability. I want to level up. And he sent me this message, and he's like, I cannot believe the amazing woman you are today. And I've watched you coach, and it is profound. And I had goosebumps under my skin. It was just like this lovely, lovely, beautiful message. And I wrote back to him and I was like, thank you for having the strength to believe in me when I didn't have the strength to believe in myself in that moment. And we get our deepest hurts in relationship, but we heal deeper in relationship too. It's the counterbalance. So having that coach, mentorship, mentee relationship, profound.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Profound.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go back.
That's so wonderful that he sent you that, because I never had any doubt about you. And I've known you, and honestly, I think that the greater part of our conversations and relationships that we've had throughout these years just has been constantly seeking. And you and I don't hold back with each other. You are probably the most honest relationship that I've ever had, of somebody that is never afraid to say it like it is to me. And it is, and I learned from you that, and especially you being a female, is that when there was constructive, I'm worried about you, I see this happening, that it comes from such a place of love, and to take it that way and to be able to go, she wouldn't say this to me unless there was a reason behind this. And I think that having more honest conversations and being able to receive that information and then take that and grow from it and do something.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
You're my bud.
Yes, you're my heart. Thank you. Allie's my family. She's my soul family.
It's funny because I had a message from one of my members that says, "You guys look like sisters," and my response was, "We practically are," because we both had green hair in the
I
picture
know.
that we were
I
doing.
did that on purpose.
Yeah. So, but you're all lavender now.
I'm all lavender now, mostly. I'll have to put some deposit in. Allie is my go-to resource when it comes to my hair color. I had about 3 inches worth of like ginger blonde roots, and I finally did something with them today.
I'm not a professional hair anything. I just I just am very curious about hair color, and I like to try things. So
yeah, it's a play, it's experiment, it's a have fun.